Hey guys, welcome to the YouTube channel. If this is your first time here, because it's your first assignment that you've had to watch a video for. This is where we will do most of our tutorials for your digital days. We're going to do an example program. We're going to do it in Replit today, but generally speaking, we will do it in NetBeans. But I wanted to do it in Replit because a lot of you guys are going to be working in Replit from home while you're doing your example program. As you can see, I am actually home right now. This is my study/game room. This is my gaming chair. It's red and black. Sponsored by Burley Burger. No, I'm just kidding. It's not. They just gave me a free t-shirt when I went in there one day. Anyways, so we are going to talk about two primary concepts. We went over variables already in class, which is good. The different types of variables, remember, int, float or double, string, char, and bool. And then we are also going to go over another useful tool that you will use all the time, and that is how to take input from the user, right? Because like if we write a program and we don't take any user input, then the programs are a lot less useful. So the two things, and these are two tools that you're going to use constantly the entire time, is variables and user input. Okay, I gotta do something here. There is my soda can recycling bag is right there, and it's literally driving me insane because I keep seeing it out of the corner of my eye. So I'm gonna move it really fast. Hold on. There we go. Better. Now I can't see the stupid soda cans. So, yay. Now I can focus. Okay. What I want you to do is go ahead and open up Replit. And we are going to do that. Let me swap it over to the... you guys. I'm dying. This will be the third time I have recorded this part. Because the microphone screwed up. Then the camera screwed up. Here we go. Attempt number 3 on how to make variables. It is what it is, right? You guys better appreciate this. That's all I gotta say. Okay, so we are going to do our variables and our reading data in. Those are the two things that we're gonna learn on this. But we're going to start with just a generic in Replit. Just start with the program, delete the hello world part. Okay. So before we get started, there's something I want you to kind of take notice of. And that is, so you have class main right here. And if you look, we talked a little bit about curly brackets, but curly brackets are kind of like a bucket, and everything that is between the curly brackets are part of the preceding bucket. So this is the class, and every part of our program has to be in the class. Okay, so this is part of the class bucket, and then we have our public static void main bucket is part of these curly brackets. So this is the main body of our program. In a few months, we'll start writing secondary programs that are part of the class but not part of the main. We'll get there. But just for right now, everything that we write will be inside of this main right here. And so if you look, so class, main, curly bracket, and then there's this vertical line down to the closing curly bracket, and then public static void main, and then this curly bracket, and there's basically a vertical line down to this one. So what I would like you guys to do is I would like you to tab stuff in when it's inside of the bucket. So public static void main, this is another bucket. So when we're working in here, we want to be tabbed in right there. So this is part of when I say make sure your code is clean and easy to read. This tabbing in is part of that. Okay, so we are going to create a variable. With a variable, when we originally set them up, it's called declaration. And so what we're trying to do is we are going to declare our intent to the computer to use a variable, right? So here's the deal. We are declaring. So this is how we set it up. This is how we declare a variable. We're going to go the variable type. So in this case, we're going to go int like that. And then the variable name. Variable names are very important. One of the things I want you to stay true to is that your variable names need to make sense. So if, for example, you are doing a program that calculates miles per gallon for your car, the miles per gallon variable where you're going to store that miles per gallon, you're going to want to name that something that makes sense. So like MPG or miles per G or miles PG, whatever makes sense to you. It doesn't matter. It just has to make sense so that when you see it, you know what that variable is. What I don't want you to do, what I want you to avoid doing, even though it's going to be really, really tempting when we're first starting, is to name your variables var1, variable 2, variable 3, variable 4, variable 5. When you only have a couple of variables, that kind of makes sense. But as our variable usage gets bigger and bigger and bigger, it gets really hard to manage about what is what. And so don't do that. Just get in the habit right now of making good variable names and variable names that are meaningful and make sense. So for us, we're going to write a program that divides a number in half, that tells you half of a given number. So what I want you to do is let's just call it number 1. Okay. Number 1, because that's the first number that we're going to use. So it makes sense in this case. Okay. And then our semicolon. Okay. Now what you're going to see is this is now underlined green. In Replit, a green underline means that it's a warning. Warning is not necessarily a bad thing. In NetBeans, when we get there, it will be yellow, not green. So that's not really a big deal. Okay, so int number 1, and then we're going to go here and we're going to say number 1 equals, whoa, I didn't mean to put a space there. Number 1 equals, let's do 4. Okay, like that. And then we're going to come down here and go system.out.println, like that. And then we're going to go number 1 here, and then a semicolon. Okay, from your ASCII art program, if you remember right, you put double quotes around the thing inside the parentheses. Okay, what happens when we do that is we're going to run this, and it's literally going to print the word number 1, like that. Okay, that's not what we want. We want to print the value that number 1 holds. And so we're just going to take the quotes out and just do it number 1 like that. So when we run it this time, what we should see is it should print out 4. Maybe 4. Okay, so that's good. So now our program is doing what it's supposed to be doing. And just kind of as a side note, as you guys are working on your programs, I want you to be running them. As you add something, run it and see if it does what you think it's supposed to. This is not even close to what our program is going to be doing by the end. But for right now, our program is going to divide the number in half. But by running it right now, what we've done is we've shown that up to this point, the program will execute properly. Okay. So we are going to use a second variable, and we're going to call it number 2. Oh, wait, no, let's not do that right there yet. We got to declare it first. Ooh, that was ugly. Int, because we're going to use an int again. Number 2. Okay. We're going to do something different with this one, though. We're going to give it an initial value of 0. Okay, so this is declaring a variable. This is declaring and initializing a variable. So we usually just call this initializing for shorthand. If we say we're initializing a variable, you mean you declare it too. But when we give it an initial value or starting value, that's called initialization. So we're initializing this number 2 variable. Okay, so now we're going to come here. We're going to say number 2 equals number 1 divided by 2. Okay, so what this does, this actually does math. This takes whatever value is stored in number 1, so currently that's 4. It divides it by 2, and then it takes the answer from that and stores it in the number 2 variable. Our math can get wildly complicated in here if we wanted to. We can do all sorts of formulas and order of operations and parentheses and everything, but just keep it in your back pocket. If your numbers are ever wrong, just understand that it's probably an order of operations issue. Okay? All right. So system.println, what we're going to do is instead of printing number 1, now we're going to print number 2. So really what should happen is if number 4 is our number and number 1 divided by number 2 stored in number 2, and then system.out.println number 2, what should actually happen is this should print a 2 over here because that's half of 4. Let's check it and see what happens. And it does. So we have a number 2, which means that that's in half. Okay. The problem is that this is not actually a very handy program because you'd have to come in and reset this. Okay. So that's a problem. Every time you wanted to calculate a different number, that would not be very useful. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to add a function that allows the user to type in a number that they want to be divided in half. So by default, Java has all of these things it can do. It can display stuff on the screen. It can do colors. It can do math. It can do all sorts of stuff. But there's also, core Java is kind of this big, but all the things Java can do is like this big. The problem is that let's say there's some really complex calculus formula way out here, okay? We don't want necessarily our program to worry about doing this way complex calculus because we just don't care about it, right? Because that just adds more work for our program. And so what we're going to do is we're only going to import the libraries that we need. Reading data in from the user is an extra library. So what we've got to do is up here on line 1, before our class main, we are going to need to import a library. We're going to go import java.util, stands for utilities. There's a whole bunch of little Java utilities. There's math and there's abstract math. You can see all of this stuff. Okay. We're going to do java.util.scanner. Okay. That is the library that we're going to import because we're going to use it. Okay. A scanner is a lot like a variable in that you declare it and it allows you to do something, but you have to be able to call the scanner. And so for our scanner, what we're going to do is we're going to declare it and initialize it just like we do a variable. So it's going to look similar, but at the same time, it'll look a little different. So our variable is going to be of type scanner, like that. I always name, this is where we name our variables. I always name my scanner reader like that because it makes sense to me. But you can name your scanner anything you want, Yoda or Ahsoka or Aang or Sailor Moon. I don't care. But I name mine reader just because it makes the most sense to me. Okay, equals new. This is where we initialize it, scanner. Okay, and now inside of our parentheses is called arguments. And we have to tell it where we're going to read from. Where's the scanner going to read from? We can read from a file. We can read from the input string. We can read from a path. We can read from readable. We can even pull from memory, like a byte channel. We're going to actually use an input stream. And the input stream that we're going to use is system.in. Now, that should look very familiar to you guys because remember when we want to print something on the screen, it's system.out. That's output. Whereas our scanner is going to function with the system.in or system input. Okay, so input from the user. Okay, so now we have our scanner set up and we can use our scanner to read in data. So what we want to do is we want to change this number 1 and we want to actually make this readable from the user instead of just us specifying what it is. So we're going to go number 1 equals reader dot next int. Okay, and so what we have is we're telling the scanner, hey, I want you to read the next integer that the user types in, and you're going to take that and you're going to store it in number 1. So now we can type in any number we want. It'll take that number, it'll divide it in half, and then it'll print out the answer. So let's go ahead and run it and see what happens. See if it works. This one might take a little bit longer to compile, which obviously it is. Okay, so this is running. It's waiting for us to type something in. So if I go ahead and type in 6, it divides it in half, and we have 3. Okay, so functionally this works, but this is not a super useful program because we never ask the user for any information. So let's go ahead and ask the user. Let's say system.out.print ln for Printline, and let's say enter a number to divide in half. There we go. Like that. Oops, semicolon. And then after, before we give the answer, we're going to come down here and we are going to say system.out.println your number, no, let's go half your number is colon. Oh, I totally forgot that, and I can't spell half. Half your number is here. And then semicolon there. Half your number is. Now that should make a lot more sense. Now let's try this again. And let's see what happens. Now it should prompt us. Enter a number to divide in half. And now it gives us. Now let's go 8. Half your number is 4. So that works. Okay, so we're good. We have a program that's functional and works. Remember, when I talked to you about integers and floats not playing together well, this is exactly what I mean. Here we go. Watch this. It's gonna ask us for a number, but we're gonna try 5 this time. I'm gonna hit enter, and half your number is 2. Is that correct? No, that's not correct. So what happens when you do integer division or you work with integers and it requires it should be a float? What actually happens is it just takes everything that's after the decimal place and cuts it off. So you could have 2.999999 and it's not going to round up to 3. It's just going to take that and cut it off and get rid of it. So that becomes 2, which is not very useful. So let's go ahead and fix that in our code. Instead of an integer, we're going to use a double like that, because if you remember, floats and double are the same thing. For the time being, I want you to just use doubles instead of floats, but understand that doubles are the same thing. Okay, so now what we have is we have our thing that it will now handle decimal points. So if we come here and it'll say enter a number to divide in half, we're going to do 5 again. And now it should say 2.5. And it does. Okay, so that's good. So now we've accounted for the fact that when you divide an odd number, it's going to result in a decimal. Okay, the last thing before we let this go is I'm going to add my comments right here. So here we're going to go initialize variables. This one is going to be a little bit different. We're going to go declare scanner Okay. We're going to go ask user for input. And then we're going to be read input. Then we're going to do mathy things. Oops. Forgot my slash. Do mathy things. And finally, give answer. Okay, that's a good set of comments. That makes sense. This program would score a perfect score. Okay, so what I want you to do for this particular assignment for our example program. In Canvas, there is I had my sword out. We were playing World of Warcraft on stream tonight, and I got my sword out. It just fell. Okay. There's a Canvas assignment for variable example program. I want you to go in, take your code, cut and paste it or whatever, download it, and submit it as a file. I don't care. But I want you to submit your example program in Canvas. Have this done before class next time, right? Because we're going to start working on your assignment next time, okay? So I want you to make sure that when we do our example programs on your digital day, that you get those done before class. Because in class, if you haven't watched this yet, you're going to have to sit there in class and watch it and do your example program. And then you're going to have to try to get your program done, and you're just not going to have enough time. Because my idea is that you don't actually have any homework for this class. As long as you do what you're supposed to do on your digital day and work hard in class, you should really never have homework for our class, okay? All right. So just to kind of lead you into our assignment, your assignment, and there's a assignment in Canvas is open. What I want you to do is you're going to write a program that lets the user type in a number of days, and you're going to take that number of days and you're going to convert it into minutes. So if they say 2, they want to know how many minutes are in 2 days, it's going to return 2880, right, as the minutes. Okay, so you're going to have to do some math. You're going to have to ask the user. You're going to have to do some variable stuff. I want you to use integers because you're never going to have an odd number of minutes in any given whole day. And so you always want to use the proper data type when you can. So for this case, for your assignment, it's going to be integers. We use doubles tonight because doubles make more sense for what we were trying to do. And so you're going to have to do integers for our assignment because it makes the most sense. Okay. All right. I just about asked you if you had any questions, but I'm thinking that I'm probably not going to get anybody to raise their hand tonight. Right. Okay. Welcome to our YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. Smash the like button. All that. Yeah, whatever. Have a good night. Have a good digital day. Get this done quick, and you should be all set. Okay? Let me know if you have any questions. Later.